Drew McCoy is one of hundreds of thousands of Americans making a living on YouTube. He might look like a typical millennial YouTuber, but the nature of his videos are a little different.
I feel like this one could get me in hot water.
When McCoy, better known as Genetically Modified Skeptic, turns the mic on, the content can be controversial and to some, highly offensive.
The very idea of a Christian Bible was invented by a flawed human being. If you're going to hell in every religion, I definitely want to hear about why. Without sufficient reason to believe Christianity was true, though, I had to leave all of that behind. When I became an atheist, I couldn't tell anyone, because that would mean that I was not only rejecting their personal Lord and Savior, but I was maybe even rejecting them as individuals. That is how my evangelical community would have taken it. I was raised independent, fundamental Baptist. That meant that we believed that the end times were near, that the earth was created in 6 literal days by God about 6,000 years ago. Some of the things that I was taught, I started to question. I didn't have anyone in real life to talk to about issues of religion and atheism. So I decided that maybe I could go online and express myself freely if that was really the only place I could do it. Until next time, everyone, keep an open mind and stay skeptical.
Drew is certainly not alone. He's part of a wider community of atheists in the United States who found a sanctuary on YouTube.
I'm John Gleason, the Godless Engineer.
There's a slew of popular channels with millions of viewers dedicated exclusively to articulating the atheist worldview.
I don't think it's knowable if a God exists.
And challenging religious narratives for the approximately 10% of Americans that openly identify as non-believers.
If religious people want us to believe in God, then the burden of proof is on them.
In the US, most atheist YouTubers have a very similar origin story. They were once ardent believers and grew up in strict Christian communities. Now they feel compelled to defend their godless worldview, often in the face of great adversity.
People who come out of especially a dogmatic, fundamentalist, high control faith, they come out and they've got a real fire in their belly and they look for an outlet. And YouTube provides that.
But if you want to read a book to really make you an atheist, I'm going to recommend the Bible.
You can have the long form exchange. You can develop a relationship with the viewer. If you see a debate show like the Atheist Experience, they welcome religious people to call in and they challenge them directly.
Over 75% of all scholars and historians can agree that Jesus of Nazareth was a real person.
Well, okay, so first of all, 93% of all statistics are pulled right out of somebody's at the time that they need to use them.
The types of interactions you get will vary based on the type of channel that it is. Street epistemology will get just the curious.
Do you have like 5 minutes to just have a conversation about God?
Sure. I am most interested in what I call kind of the seekers. I was a believer for a long time and I don't know. I've got doubts, but I just Googled atheist and your channel popped up.
They needed to find this online community because they don't have the people around them who understand their experiences. The American religion is faith in faith. And so people who don't believe anything, they're scary to a lot of Americans, particularly American Christians. Where a state is dominated by Christians, that's where it's harder to be an atheist. You may not be able to tell your family because it might not be safe. You might lose your job. So it is difficult to be an atheist in much of America.
Except online, where YouTube has provided a diverse space for atheist thought. You can pick and choose the style and tone of content. In the early days, however, it was a space dominated by predominantly snarky white men who ridiculed religion and the religious, a tone largely set by the so-called new atheists, thought leaders like Christopher Hitchens and Richard Dawkins.
Obviously, I do not share your beliefs, and I think you are hallucinating.
A celestial North Korea. Who wants this to be true?
They inspired a new generation of non-believers, deploying blistering debate tactics that were soon emulated by YouTubers. In recent years, those tactics have shifted. Seth Andrews witnessed the evolution. He was there from the beginning.
The temperature of atheist activism back then was a lot more mockery of religion. You know, Jesus is Santa Claus for adults. And you need to grow up and accept reality.
Because Christianity is just a cult, and it's not true.
Oh, the Bible is the imperfect word of man. It's divinely inspired.
I think a lot of us had the delusion that you can mock people out of their faith. But if you can make them feel safe, and if they make me feel safe, that's when conversations begin. And I think online atheism and activism, I think we sort of woke up to that.
You need to be able to have good faith conversations with people who don't share your non-belief. You need to have a more nuanced understanding of religion.
If you would rather not question essential parts of your faith, that's your prerogative. But don't paint others as unreasonable or immoral for being open to questioning theirs. One of my missions, one of my goals now has become to make content that, while not pulling punches when I'm criticizing religion, I am taking a tone that someone's mom would be able to listen to and maybe even resonate with. I want to be so clearly compassionate and so clearly human in what I'm saying that it's impossible to dehumanize me. Around the election of Donald Trump, a lot of us saw that talking about secularism with compassion, with kindness, was so necessary if we wanted to mend the relationships that were constantly being broken by the division in our country. That was the way that was actually going to get things done. I think that that attitude of compassion over vitriol has won out overall when it comes to atheist YouTube culture today.
If you place your left hand on the Bible and raise your right hand.
Some American atheists may be softening their approach to fight for a pluralistic society, but it's an uphill battle in a country that's not only a majority Christian nation,
that I will faithfully execute,
but affords Christianity a certain privilege, a higher political calling.
So help you God? So help me God.
And one element with outsized political influence in recent years is Christian nationalism. This fringe ideology insists that the U.S. is a Christian nation, one that should be governed by biblical principles, despite a clear separation of church and state in the Constitution. This movement is now a central target for atheists on YouTube.
This is something that we must fight, and I have joined not just other atheists, but people of other religions and even Christians. So you're a Christian, but you and I join in being critics and sounding the alarms about Christian nationalists.
Absolutely, we are allies in this cause.
I'm not an enemy of Christians. I am surrounded by Christians, and they are, in many cases, the most important people in my life. I will fight for someone's right to be religious. When I engage is when they claim that the nation belongs to them.
Engaging in these religious debates isn't exactly easy. People like Andrews and McCoy made the difficult decision to tell their truths. Now they're on a mission, spreading the word and pushing for a future where others in the so-called land of the free can express themselves without fear.
People have communicated to me that if they were to be public in the way that I am, that they would be kicked out of their homes, that they'd be disowned. I've also had people tell me that watching my videos made them realize that there are other people who think the way that they think and that that's okay. I don't want every religious person to become an atheist. The world wouldn't be better if we were all atheists. But the world would be better if we were all able to critique the beliefs that we were programmed with by our surrounding culture.